Hello everyone, welcome back to my round 3 recap of my rapid tournament in the KWCC Summer Quick. This was a CFC rated event and over the board event actually, my fourth over the board event after the pandemic. I was playing black and currently in the tournament I am 2-0. So let's take a look at what happened in my round 3 game. In this game I actually got paired with someone who was unrated, so I didn't know what to expect. They were 1.5 out of 2 heading into this round. So I thought they must be somewhat decent, but we'll see in this game. So playing black, d4 my opponent opened with, so I just played my King's Indian. And here I play e5. I know that what my opponent did in the game actually isn't too good, because I know if you take on e5, I usually have knight takes e4, and usually speaking, black is typically better in these types of positions after knight takes on e4 and bishop takes on e5. Here my opponent actually makes a mistake immediately by playing the move bishop to h6. This actually allows me to play the move rook to e8, which I was going to play anyways to try to get my rook opposite the king. After I move my bishop and play a move, well, f5 is a bit dubious, but the idea is to kick the knight away and then maybe I have a discovered check with the bishop. And here I envisioned that if my opponent castles to try to get out of the center, I do have the move queen to h4, which would fork the bishop as well as the pawn. And the reason why this forks the pawn, which is important, is because this bishop here also converges on h2, which is why queen to h4 is a really strong move after castles, because it threatens actually checkmate as well as the bishop. But my opponent castles anyways, and here after a bit of thought I play queen to h4. As I mentioned, we're attacking the bishop, and we're attacking h2, threatening checkmate actually. And there's no way to actually save the bishop. There's no way to move the bishop in any way to protect this pawn. And if you play f4, thinking that you're attacking my bishop, so for example, queen takes, pawn takes, this is actually better for white a lot. But here I do have bishop to d4 check. After king moves, I play queen takes on h6, and I'm completely winning. So here my opponent tries something a bit tricky, plays bishop to f4. The idea here is that if I play bishop takes f4, then there's g3, forking my queen at my bishop. But of course, I can always play queen takes on f4, threaten to checkmate again. Here my opponent plays g3, I play queen to h6. And here, all I have to do is, since I'm up a piece, and all I have to do is just consolidate my position and get my pieces out. Because even though my opponent is down a piece, I am very severely undeveloped on the queen side especially, so I need to try to get my pieces out as quickly as possible. Here, and also the reason why I play queen to f8 instead of developing, let's say, knight to c6, is here my opponent does have the tricky move knight f6 check. Idea is that we're forking the king and the rook, and if I play bishop takes f6, you'll see that my bishop was actually pinned. If we go back here, my bishop's actually pinned because of my undevelopment, because this bishop is still cutting off the circulation between the two rooks. So here if I play bishop takes f6, there's rook takes on e8 check. After king to g7, there is this pin here which takes a second to untangle. It is still completely winning for me, but it does take some time to untangle here. So I prefer not to obviously have to lose a rook for a piece. So here I just play queen f8, simply defending. Another move in this position is rook to d8. That is also another possibility to put my rook opposite the queen. But here I spent a little bit of time trying to calculate everything to make sure I don't lose something, because I really didn't want to mess up a position like this where I'm up a piece. So here I just simply put queen f8 just to be completely safe. Queen e2, renewing the threat because my queen only protects the rook once, and after knight f6 there are two attackers on this piece. So here I play bishop e6, completely blocking this, because now if knight f6, bishop takes f6, there is no queen takes on e8. The best you can do is queen takes e6 if you want to capture something on the e file, and this bishop blocks up the line of sight to the rook. Here after bishop to e6, my opponent actually went into a deep thought, and I actually realized what. The idea here that I saw was actually there was maybe knight to g5 attacking this bishop. While attacking this bishop, discovered attack. And after a move like bishop to g7, here there were actually maybe outside, although this is completely losing, outside possibility of a move like knight takes h7. Obviously this is completely losing, and I also calculated a lot after knight to g5 to make sure I was completely safe. But after something like knight takes on h7, king takes, and queen to h5 check, this could look really scary. You can't take with the pawn because there is a bishop here pitting the g6 pawn. This could look a bit scary, especially after maybe something like this, and you're bringing your rook in. But I realized quickly that there were no entry squares for my opponent's pieces. Here I can even play queen to f7, offer a queen trade, play rook to f8, and attack the f2 pawn, play knight c6, bring my other rook in, and this is completely okay for me. So I quickly realized that knight takes h7 doesn't have much of a threat, so I just simply play bishop g7. Here my opponent plays h4, trying to get in h5 and soften up my structure, like for example, something like this. There is a move like bishop takes on h7. And after king to h8, there is queen takes on h5, and this looks really, really devastating. In fact, the computer actually claims this is around equal, only slightly better for black after the move bishop to h6, but this just looks completely horrifying to defend for black. So here, I have to be quick with my counterplay. Here, I play the move bishop to d7. The idea here is now I'm double protecting my rook, and I'm trying to get in some trades and attack this queen right now. Queen to f3. Here, knight to c6. My idea is to try to get a knight to e5 before a push like h5 comes. Here, my opponent plays bishop to e4, getting out of the way so that knight e5 doesn't come with a fork. Not to d4, to d3. Here, I play knight e4 anyway, knight e5 anyway, to attack my queen, to attack our opponent's queen's position. Here, my opponent slides back to e2 to also protect the c4 pawn, which was also under fire. Here, the best move in this position is actually h6, which I saw. The idea with this is, of course, to kick the knight away, and then after, let's say, knight f3, then I can play bishop to g4 to pin. The only issue is, since I spent a lot of time making sure that knight takes h7 wasn't a threat earlier in the position, I was really, really low on time here. In fact, I had around 2 minutes compared to my opponent's around 7. And also keep in mind, this is a delay time control, meaning that any time I spend, I won't be able to get back. Because how a delay works is, so it was a 10-second delay, so it's your clock doesn't run for 10 seconds when it's your move, and then after 10 seconds, it starts running. So pretty much it isn't like increment where you can get your time back. Any time I spend, I won't be able to get it back. So here, and I saw h6, but I thought maybe like h5, and then there was some outside chances. So I just went with the more safer option, which is just to trade pieces. Here my opponent plays h5, and I simply take, queen takes, and I play queen to e7, attacking this knight. And that's actually quite a subtle threat here. This knight, you can't actually protect it with your queen. If you play queen to h4, then I can play queen takes on g5. Because after queen takes g5, you'll see that I have knight f3 check. This is actually a family fork. I'm attacking the king, attacking the rook, and attacking the queen. So after a move like king to g2, I can simply play knight takes on g5, and I'm up another piece. So here my opponent plays king to g2, because the idea here is that after queen takes g5, there is f4, but I still take anyway. Keep in mind I'm up a piece, so I want to trade. f4, and I actually get another pawn, 2 pawns actually, because this pawn can actually be taken. Rook takes on d5, queen takes on b2. Here I double up on the e file. Pretty much you have to trade. If you don't, I get in on e2. Takes and queen takes. And here I'm pretty much forcing a queen trade with queen takes on b2. Because if you go off of the b file, then I do have queen takes b2, forking the king as well as the rook. Here my opponent with low time plays queen takes a7. And here I play queen takes b2. And at this point my opponent resigns, seeing that I'm going to be able to win this rook. You can win this pawn, but I'm going to win a2. Let's say king a3, queen takes on a1, queen takes c7, queen takes on a2. This pawn will not survive, and in fact, I'm probably going to checkmate my opponent before my opponent even has a chance to get a queen. So this game I'm relatively happy with as well, similar to my last game. Pretty smooth technique. Didn't really make any mistakes at all, and queen h4 early on in the game just quickly won me a piece, and just had to mitigate my opponent's counterplay, and I was completely okay. So like I said, smooth game, I'm very happy with, and now I'm actually moving to 3 out of 3 in my tournament. And we'll see what happens in my round 4 game. Hopefully I can go 4 for 4 and maybe even go 5 for 5. And I guess we'll figure out what my result is in my round 4 recap. So thanks for watching, and see you there.